Welcome once again to Jimbo's Barbecue Hacienda. Simple, crowd-pleasing recipes for your grill. I am Jim Haas. Thank you so much for joining. Today's recipe, rotisserie baby back ribs. Hey, it's going to be a good one. Alright, so rotisserie ribs. What are we going to need for this recipe? In this case, I'm doing 2 racks of baby back ribs. This recipe really can apply to any style of ribs, but something smaller, like a baby back, is just going to be easier to deal with when you're working with a rotisserie. Rub of your choice. I've been using a lot lately just a really simple blend of salt, pepper, and garlic, some olive oil. And then what I'm also doing on this is I've got a couple of foil pans down in the bottom of this firebox that I've put just about an inch of water in the bottom of them. Put some of the rub that I'm going to be using. I've sprinkled that in the water, and I've chopped up a couple of veggies. Really whatever you got in your kitchen. Today I just had an onion and a couple apples. Chopped them up, put them in there. Those foil pans are going to double as a drip catch, and also we're going to use that liquid during this process to baste our ribs as they're spinning. So that being said, if you're looking for something like a fall off of the bone kind of a deal, this is really not going to be that. If you're looking for that, I've got a video on 3-2-1 smoked baby back ribs. Check that out for sure. That's a much longer process, but the results are exceptional. What we're going for here today is just something really quick, simple, but still packed with a ton of flavor. So that being said, let's get to prepping. First step of prepping these things is taking off this thin membrane on the underneath, on the bone side, if you will. I've got this one started already. Sometimes if you lift up a corner with the knife, you can kind of get it started, and then it just peels off real nice. And sometimes it's a little more challenging. If the membrane is so thin that you just can't peel it off of the bone side of the rib, I would just not even worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and truss these up before I put the olive oil and seasoning on them. I find it just makes everything a little bit easier just to get them on the rod first. So what we're going to do is just every 3rd or 4th rib, we're just going to poke this through. And this way, you don't need any kind of rib basket between this and then just the forks on each side of these racks of ribs is going to hold it in place pretty well. Alright, now just apply olive oil liberally on both sides of these racks. I'm also going to do, I'm going to use some cooking twine and kind of tie off in the middle between these 2 racks, just to kind of hold those 2 ends together. I find that usually I don't even need that, but we got 2 floppy ends coming off of there in the middle, so we'll tighten those up with some twine. No problem, no problem. So olive oil. I do love cooking with olive oil. I use a lot of it, probably too much of it. And then, once again, applying liberally your rub of choice. Want to make sure you cover all surfaces of the ribs, and this is going to be absolutely packed with flavor. All right, time for the ribs to go onto the rotisserie motor. So as you'll see here in a second, I've got my cooking twine tied off in the center to keep everything together here. Let's get this motor spinning before I get distracted and burn one side of my ribs. Hey, you can see the foil pans I was talking about down here in the bottom of the firebox. Again, just water, seasoning, some cut up veggies. And these are not going to take long. Once these get going, how you'll know when the ribs are done is the meat will start to pull away from the edges of the bone, and when it gets to be about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch exposed ends, of those rib bones, that's usually when this is about done. I'm guessing this is going to take maybe 45 minutes. This style of rotisserie burner, it's a very high heat infrared ceramic rotisserie burner, so very high heat. It's not one of these kind of slow cook deals. So this is not going to take long. I'm going to set my timer for half an hour. At that point I'm going to come back, just see how it looks, but I'm also going to get a baster and use some of this liquid to kind of baste the ribs as they're spinning. The beauty about rotisserie, and I always say it, it is the easiest and most impressive way to cook. Once you get everything prepped and done and spinning, that's really it. You can even overdo some meat on this, really any kind of meat. You can overdo it a little bit on a rotisserie and it's still not going to ruin it, just because it's constantly spinning and basting in its own juices. So it is a beautiful thing, and set my timer for a half hour. We'll come back and take a look. 30-minute mark, and they are looking good. They're looking good. You can just start to see the meat pull away from the bone, so it's still got a little ways to go on this. But we're going to squirt it with some of this liquid, and this will also kind of speed up the process a little bit. Kind of along those lines of overdoing meat a little bit on the rotisserie, I'm going to let these go probably about another 5 or 10 minutes after I see that meat start to pull away from the edges of the bone. Just to, I don't want to leave it on here enough to dry it out, but I want to leave it on here enough to help really render and melt down the fat that's between those ribs, so that it will fall off the bone a little bit. Again, like I said before, it's not going to be that all day smoke fall off the bone kind of result, but these are going to be full of flavor and really good. 45 minutes in, what do you think of this? Let's take a look here. Come on, roll around so I can see that rib bone. Yep, there they are. They're starting to expose that bone about a ½ inch or so. So these are done. But the more I was talking about, leaving them on a little bit longer, the more I was thinking I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to give them one more basting, let them roll for just another 5 minutes. Heat resistant gloves, very important for this process. That looks amazing. Check it out, check it out. Oh yeah, look at that. All right, very carefully I'm going to pull these off of the rotisserie rod and then get them into a foil pan, cover them up, let them rest for a few minutes. But this is where you need to be very, very cautious. Things are very hot. And sometimes don't want to cooperate. In this case, that wasn't too bad. Always important to let meat rest under foil in most cases. This is just going to let it continue to cook and absorb in those flavors and just get better and better. So, just about 10 minutes, we'll be good to go. All right, well, here comes that moment of truth. My favorite part of any video. There you go. Just going to cut a couple of these off of here and see what happens. They're very, very hot. And very, very good. You know what? A little more tender than I even expected. Full of flavor. Those are amazing. Hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to this silly little channel. It's getting better every time, I think. I don't know. Life is short. Eat well and enjoy yourselves. Jimbo's Barbecue Hacienda. I'm Jim Haas. Thank you. See you next time.